Life can be hard. We face storms. We face uncertainty. In these moments, we instinctively seek refuge. We look for safety. We long for a haven from the storms of life. Psalm 11 echoes this universal need. It speaks of finding strength and solace in the face of adversity. The psalmist, facing threats and questioning, turns to God. He finds his refuge in the Lord's unwavering presence. We are like that small boat. We face winds and waves that threaten to overwhelm us, but like the psalmist, we can find our anchor in God. We can find our refuge in His love. The psalmist paints a powerful image. He speaks of the Lord in His holy temple, enthroned in heaven. This image evokes a sense of awe. It speaks of God's power, majesty, and sovereignty. The Lord is in His holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, His eyelids test the children of men. Psalm 11 verse 4. This image is not meant to be literal. It's a metaphor for God's constant awareness. He sees everything. He knows our struggles. He understands our fears. This knowledge is comforting. We are not alone in our struggles. God sees our pain. He hears our cries. He is our refuge. The psalmist then describes the challenges he faces. He paints a vivid picture of the trials and tribulations that come his way, illustrating the struggles that many of us can relate to in our own lives. He speaks of the wicked. He describes their arrows, which are not just physical weapons, but also symbolic of the many forms of adversity we encounter. These arrows represent the injustices and hardships we encounter in life. They are the challenges that test our resolve and our faith. For lo, the wicked bend their bow, preparing to strike when we least expect it. They make ready their arrow upon the string, aiming to cause harm and spread fear, that they may privily shoot at the upright in heart. Psalm 11, verse 2. These words remind us that even the righteous are not immune to the attacks of the wicked. These arrows can take many forms. They are not always visible, but their impact is deeply felt. They might be words that wound, cutting deeper than any physical weapon. They might be actions that cause harm, leaving scars that are not easily healed. They might be situations that test our faith, pushing us to our limits and challenging our beliefs. Regardless of their form, these arrows remind us that we live in a broken world, a world where pain and suffering are part of the human experience. We live in a world where injustice exists, where the vulnerable are often overlooked and the strong prey on the weak. We live in a world where bad things happen to good people. But in facing these challenges, we find our strength, our resilience, and our capacity for compassion. In the face of these challenges, the psalmist expresses his concern. He questions the very foundations of justice. He wonders if righteousness still matters. If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Psalm 11, verse 3. This is a question we might ask ourselves. When we see injustice, we might wonder if our efforts to live righteously are in vain. We might be tempted to give up on doing what is right. However, the psalmist's question is not one of despair. It's a question of faith. It's a reminder that even when the world seems to crumble around us, God is still on His throne. He is still in control. Section 5, Divine Protection, the Lord's Unwavering Gaze. The psalmist finds comfort in God's unwavering gaze. This gaze is not just a passive observation, but an active, loving watchfulness. It is a gaze that sees beyond the surface, penetrating the depths of our hearts and souls. It is a gaze that reassures us that we are never alone, no matter how isolated we may feel. He knows that God sees not only the righteous but also the wicked. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, it is easy to feel overlooked or insignificant. Yet the Lord's gaze is upon each one of us, discerning our actions and intentions. This divine awareness brings a sense of accountability and comfort, knowing that justice will ultimately prevail. He knows that God will ultimately judge with righteousness. This judgment is not arbitrary, but is rooted in divine wisdom and fairness. It is a reminder that while human justice can be flawed, divine justice is perfect and unerring. The sunrise over the dark valley symbolizes the hope and renewal that comes with God's righteous judgment. The Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked and him that loveth violence his soul hateth. Psalm 11 verse 5. This verse underscores the Lord's protective nature towards the righteous and his disdain for wickedness. The imagery of the lion and the eagle represents strength, vigilance, and the far-reaching scope of God's watchfulness. This is a powerful reminder. It calls us to reflect on our own lives and actions. Are we living in a way that aligns with divine principles? Are we seeking justice and righteousness in our daily interactions? The serene lake and the contemplative figure by the river invite us to pause and consider these questions deeply. God is not indifferent to injustice. He is acutely aware of the struggles and sufferings of his people. The peaceful protesters and the clearing storm symbolize the ongoing battle against injustice and the hope for a brighter, more just future. God's unwavering gaze ensures that no act of injustice goes unnoticed. He sees the pain of the oppressed. Every tear, every cry for help is seen and heard by the Lord. The tearful face and the compassionate hug remind us of the empathy and love that God has for those who are suffering. His gaze is one of deep compassion and understanding. He hears the cries of the innocent. The image of a mother comforting her child is a powerful representation of God's nurturing and protective nature. The serene meadow symbolizes the peace and safety that come from being under God's watchful eye. He will not allow evil to triumph. The sunlight breaking through dark clouds and the strong flowing river are symbols of hope and resilience. They remind us that no matter how dark the times may seem, God's justice and goodness will ultimately prevail. This knowledge gives us hope. The rainbow and blooming flowers are symbols of renewal and promise. They remind us that after every storm, there is a period of growth and beauty. God's unwavering gaze assures us that we are never forgotten and that better days are ahead. It reminds us that even when we face challenges, we are not alone. God is with us. The group of friends and the lighthouse symbolize companionship and guidance. They remind us that we have both divine and earthly support to help us navigate through life's difficulties. He is fighting for us. He is our protector. The lion and the guardian dog are powerful symbols of protection and vigilance. They remind us that we are under the watchful eye of a loving and powerful God who is always ready to defend and protect us. Section 6. Finding refuge in God's justice. The psalmist reminds us that God is a God of justice. In a world where injustice often seems to prevail, it is comforting to know that there is a higher power who sees all and will ultimately set things right. He will not allow the wicked to prosper forever. Their actions, though they may seem to go unnoticed or unpunished for a time, will eventually be brought to account. He will bring their deeds to light. This assurance can be a source of great comfort to those who have been wronged or oppressed. Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire and brimstone, and an horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup. Psalm 11, verse 6. This vivid imagery serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of evil actions. This imagery of fire and brimstone might seem harsh, yet it underscores the seriousness with which God views injustice and wickedness. However, it reflects the seriousness of God's judgment. It is a divine assurance that justice will be served, even if it is not in our timing or in the way we expect. It reminds us that our actions have consequences. Every choice we make, every path we take, leads us closer to or further from the justice that God embodies. This knowledge should motivate us to live righteously. It should inspire us to be just in our dealings with others, to show mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. It should encourage us to stand up for what is right, even when it's difficult. Standing for justice often requires courage and resilience, but we can find strength in knowing that we are aligned with God's will. We can do so knowing that God is on the side of justice. His justice is not only a promise of retribution for the wicked, but also a beacon of hope for the righteous. In his justice we find refuge and strength to continue our journey. Section 7. A shield against the storm, trusting in divine protection. The psalmist finds refuge in knowing that God is his shield and protector. He trusts in God's power to deliver him from harm. For the righteous Lord loveth righteousness, his countenance doth behold the upright. Psalm 11:7. This trust is not based on wishful thinking, it's based on God's character. God is righteous. He loves justice. He will protect those who seek to live according to his will. This knowledge gives us courage. It allows us to face our fears, knowing that God is with us. We can stand firm in the face of adversity, trusting in his protection. Section 8. Hope for the oppressed, a promise of vindication. Psalm 11 offers hope to the oppressed. It reminds them that God sees their suffering. He hears their cries, he will not abandon them. The Lord is righteous, he loveth righteousness, the upright shall behold his face. Psalm 11:7. This promise of vindication is a source of strength for those who are suffering unjustly. It reminds them that their pain is not in vain. God will make things right. This hope sustains us. It gives us the strength to keep going even when we feel like giving up. We can trust that God will ultimately bring justice and healing. Section 9. The Eternal Judge, a foundation of justice. The psalmist concludes by affirming his faith in God's justice. He knows that God is the ultimate judge. He knows that God will ultimately make things right. This affirmation is not just for the psalmist. It's for all of us. It's a reminder that we can trust in God's justice even when we don't understand his ways. This trust in God's justice is the foundation of our faith. It's what gives us hope in the face of adversity. It's what allows us to live with courage and conviction, knowing that God is in control. Section 10. Finding strength for today, living with faith and hope. Psalm 11 is a powerful reminder that we are not alone in our struggles. God is with us. He sees our pain. He hears our cries. He will never leave us nor forsake us. When we face challenges, we can find refuge in him. We can trust in his protection. We can have hope in his justice. Let us live each day with faith and hope, knowing that God is on his throne and his love endures forever.